Hello, my name is Sophie and welcome back to my channel. I really like the idea of doing monthly resets. I follow Sarah Corelli and her doing book stuff videos every month and I really like them, but I don't want to call them doing book stuff because that feels like directly copying her format. But a monthly reset is something that very much fits my vibe. As someone who's been religiously bullet journaling for 8 years now, yeah, that's a long time. I'm someone who leans on my journal very heavily, and considering I make my new spreads in my bullet journal every month, if I get to the start of the month and I've not made them, I get a little bit cross with myself. I thought I would culminate it into a monthly reset video. So I'll show you the new spreads I have in my bullet journal and the spreads I've done in my book journal. Because you guys seem to really like the journal videos, so I thought I'd bring my journals into more of my content, and I really enjoy making them, so I can talk you through how I made them, the supplies I used. I'm not particularly artistic. I don't do any drawing, and I've not got, well, my handwriting's okay, but I can't do any of that fancy calligraphy stuff. So I have a lot of, I want to say compensatory methods, but that sounds way more dramatic than it is. I've got lots of supplies and I think my journal still looks cute, so I'll talk you through it. Other things I thought I could include in these monthly resets are doing a monthly book haul, because there's almost no way that I'm going to go through a whole month without buying books, but I find the thought of having to do a monthly book haul, and whether that be 20 plus books that I have to admit I bought, is going to shame me into not buying them. But also I still get to talk about the books I bought in a month by doing a once a month book haul. So we'll talk about that in a moment. I want to do an update on my TBR count because this year is the year of the TBR, and I've now got a whiteboard in my office. This isn't an office, in my library, where I'm kind of tracking my TBR. So I'll show you that. And then I thought, just as a tag on, I won't do this every month, but I thought I'd do a little brief library tour because I have moved everything around in here, and I thought I'd show you where I've put everything. It's not going to be too in-depth because it's not that different. I mean, I don't think, unless I had said anything, you probably wouldn't have noticed that things have changed, but I thought it would be nice to tag onto this video. So if there's any other kind of monthly reset kind of content that you think would fit into these videos, please do let me know because I can include it in next month's reset. I meant to film myself creating my journal spreads, but things got in the way and I didn't get around to it. But if you'd like to see that next month, please let me know. But otherwise, welcome to February. Here's the reset. So I think I'll start with journals. So let's go downstairs and I'll talk to you about that. Hello and welcome to the journal portion of this video. I can't remember if I've shown you inside any of my journals this year, so I'm just going to start from the beginning. This is my book journal. I put some tissue paper on the end to make it look like end papers and have done an average job. Then we have the opening page, which I very much love, and a collection of frog stickers. Don't question it. Here we have my rating system and the highlighters I've used to represent each colour and some of my reading goals for the year. Here we have my annual stats, which I've obviously filled in for January, but we'll fill this in as I go along. In January, I managed to read 5 books, which equates to 979 pages, 3,751 minutes, 4 physical books, 1 ebook, 3 audiobooks, though some of those cross over. Nothing from the library this month, but 3 of those books were from my TBR. I acquired 6 new books in the month, and then my TBR total at the end of the month is 437, which is -2 from where it was at the beginning of the month. And then my average rating was 3.8, which I think is a pretty good start to the year. Here is the spread I have for my 25 books in 2025, except I've not printed out the stickers for them yet. So I've got all the space, I just haven't printed out the sticker covers yet. And then here I have 2 alphabet challenges. One is for book titles, and then I have one for authors' surnames. I'm not actively trying to achieve these challenges. I just thought they would be fun. So that's how I'm doing on those so far. Then we have my monthly reading log. I've done this where I cut the top of a page off, so it's like a double page spread, but it makes sense. I'm really pleased with it. So those are all the books I read in January, and then the ones I finished in February so far. Then we get onto my reading goal. At this point in the month, I've read 8 books, and then I nicked this spread from Rachel Catherine, who I saw using it in her journal video, where she had like a bar graph of how many books she'd read per month. So yeah, 5 books in January and 3 in February so far. Then I have a page for books I borrowed from the library. Obviously haven't borrowed any yet. And then my genre tracker, which is coloured in using the rating I give each of the books I finished. Then we have my bookshelf, which I colour based on which month I finished it in. So all of the purple ones are January and green is February so far. This will be my 5-star read spread. Again, I've not printed out the covers yet, but I've had 2 books that are 5 stars so far this year. In my journal last year, I think I only just made it onto the second page. So hopefully we'll be able to fill this by the end of the year. That would be nice. Then we have my book of the year spread. Again, I did pick a book for January, but haven't printed the picture out yet. This is way more satisfying at the end of the year, but it does look a bit awkward at this point in the year. And then these pages are to track what books I'm reading for my book clubs. Again, haven't printed out the pictures yet, but finished both of my books for the book club with my sibling. But the wedding book club I have with my husband, I'm less incentivized to do because he doesn't read the books either. So I've got some catching up to do there, but I have started reading the January book now. So at least there's that. Then we have my new buys. This is hopefully to limit me. And 57 isn't particularly a goal. It's just how many squares I could fit in on the page. But if I go beyond that, we have a severe problem. And then I've listed all the books I've bought so far over here. And then I do have more pages for that if necessary. Here we have my pre-order tracker. So these are all the books I've already pre-ordered this year, with space for the rest of the year and any books that are announced for next year. I'm really pleased. I think this spread looks really, really nice, actually. Then we have my reading bucket list where I've coloured in some of the aims, what would you call it? It's just a fun little challenge, another one that I'm not actively trying to do, but it's nice to finish a book and figure out which prompt it fits. And then I've got these post-it notes with the actual book titles, because I think what I might do if I finish it is I might print out the book covers and like stick them in so they're kind of flappy. I'm not sure whether I prefer it coloured in or if I want the covers as well, because then you can't see what the prompt is. So I'm undecided on that yet, but this gives me the option to do that if I want to. Then we have my series tracker. What I'm learning is that I have books that are the start of a series that I wasn't aware are part of a series. So I've just finished reading Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson, which is the start of a series, but I don't have it on here because I only have book 1 and I didn't know it was part of a series. So these are a selection of some of the series I own. You can see where I read the first book in the Radiant Emperor duology, but I hated it, so I'm not going to be reading the second one, so I've crossed that off. I've read the first book in the Maximum Ride series, and then right at the end I've finished reading Onyx Storm, so I've now finished reading the Empyrean series that's out so far, so that one gets a tick. And then these are series that I'm somewhat either in the middle of or have started, and then a new series I've started in 2025. So that's my series tracker, and then we get onto the monthly trackers. So the monthly ones are much simpler than all the stuff at the beginning of this journal. That's where most of my tracking is. But then I have this calendar that I like to highlight with, when I've started a book, so I can visually see what books I was reading when. And then over here I have my TBR, which looks much nicer when I've actually printed out the covers. But what I do is I have sticker paper, and I don't want to be using like half a sheet every other month when I do update these covers. So I have a document on my Canva, which I just wait till it's filled, and then I will print it and stick them all in from there, because I don't want to waste the sticker paper. I think that makes sense. So I'm very near the end of my first page for 2025. So we'll be filling all of these in soon. But after that, that's kind of all the preamble you get, and then we get into the reviews. My layout looks exactly the same. On every page, we have the title, author, series, genre, audience, format, status, book length, and dates read at the top. We have star stickers for my star rating, format stickers so I can see how I read it, and then chili pepper stickers if there's any romantic content, let's call it. And then I have my reviews down here. I'll try and skim over them because I don't keep these spoiler free, because obviously this is my personal journal. So I don't know how friendly these are if you've not read the books. But then at the end of the month, I do like a stats wrap up. I've got these, like, what do they call them? I think they're called like ransom note stickers or something. But it's just a bunch of kind of mismatched letters. And I try to pick ones of kind of similar colours. So I think they look really good. And then I've got my stamps. And the same statistics that I had in the beginning. I'll put stickers of the covers of the books I actually finished. Then I've got started but didn't finish. Physical TBR count down by 2, formats, and then all the new buys I bought. This isn't a consistent layout. It's mostly just what I can fit on the page depending on how much I read, because I finished 5 books and started a 6th in January. But if I have a month where I read more or I read less, I'll adjust accordingly. So then in February we have a very similar but not quite as completed layout. We have the calendar again over here. I just love stickers and washi tape. Stickers, washi tape, coloured pens and stamps are the only thing you need to make a journal look pretty. I'm not particularly artistic. I can't really draw, but I really like how this looks, and I genuinely think those 4 things are the reason my journal looks the way it does. So yeah, we've got the calendar over here, my TBR over here, I've got the finished list of books down here, which I don't really need to write because I've got it in at least 3 other places in this journal, but it's nice to see it all in one place. And then again with the reviews for February. So maybe next month I might actually show you the process of designing this stats page and we can have a nice little time lapse. But otherwise, that's my book journal update. Let's have a look inside my bullet journal. So this is my bullet journal for 2025. This is a Leuchtturm 1917 A5 dotted journal. With my book journal, it's literally just a square journal with dots in. I got this from a random not a bargain bookshop, like a kind of discount warehouse kind of shop. So I can't recommend this one specifically. It's from a company called Easy Note, but they've got that branding on every single page. So I wouldn't particularly recommend it, but generic square dotted journal for the book one. But this one, Leuchtturm 1917 A5 dotted. Again, I've tried to do the end papers thing. I had loads of these scraps of paper left over from other projects, so trying my best to use them up. I do actually really like how it looks. And then we have another kind of, I want to say montage. That's not what I mean. Like a kind of scrapbooky title page. Again, with those ransom note stickers. And a vague purple colour theme. Then we have a spare page. My calendar pages, where I just kind of keep track of things that are going on generally. Then we have my goals for the year. I've done this slightly differently to how I've done it before. So I have these repeating goals based on kind of time frames and then 3 goals within each of these categories. But I think I've spoken about those in another video, or at least in a blog post maybe. I don't know if I have posted about them because it's not particularly relevant. I only ever share my goals with the internet as a kind of accountability thing. So it's not actually that important to anyone else. So yeah, if you're interested, these are my goals for the year. Then what I meant to do is put the 2026 calendar after my other calendar-based spreads, but I forgot. I found this really useful towards the end of last year to be able to jot down anything that's happening in the next year. Like we've already booked tickets to go see a Stardew Valley concert next year, so it's nice to be able to have that written down, because for me, if things aren't written down, they don't exist. This is my way of making sure it still exists and is there. Then I have a period tracker, so I can keep track of any symptoms, and then a mood tracker. Doesn't necessarily have a purpose, but I enjoy filling it out, and it's good for me to be able to reflect on my emotions each day. Then we have the more fun reading trackers. I split this up this year. Last year, I just had it in one pixel tracker. This year, I've split it up into pages and audio. And I really like how it's looking so far. Though I found I have been binging a lot of books recently, so the higher count highlighter colours have been getting more use than I anticipated. Then we have my work year in pixels, so I can keep track of, because I'm freelance, so it's keeping track of when I'm working. And then I had a spare page and I thought it would be fun to track my Wordle scores. This is not important in any way, shape or form, but it makes me happy. And I've only not got one word so far this year, so that's quite satisfying. I'm going to skip the next page, but I do have a savings tracker, but I obviously don't want to share my personal money details with the internet, so we don't need to see that. Then we get on to like monthly scrapbooking pages. So I want to be doing a new craft project every month because I have so many supplies and I feel like they're going to waste. And having a monthly goal of doing one project was really good for me last year. So in January, I finished off my 2024 journals and, set up all of these journals. So that was my project for January. And then I will fill in all these pictures as the year goes on. And then the same applies for, we have a lot of recipe books and I feel like we're not using them to their full potential. So again, we try a new recipe every month. In January, we tried making the cookies from the Stardew Valley recipe book. There's a picture, and this will look lovely by the end of the year. And then same applies again, date night diary. I think it'll be really nice to see this filled out by the end of the year. I'm really pleased with it. And then that's just a little mood board for the year with some pictures I nabbed from Pinterest. Yeah, I have nothing more to say about that. Then we get into the January spreads. So I have the kind of daily check-in ones that are relevant for the whole year at the beginning of the journal. Then I have a bunch of monthly related ones, and then I go on to the weekly spreads. So this is where I track my new recipe, the hobby/craft I'm doing, and our date day. It's where I break down some of my monthly goals, and then I have my calendar for the month, ongoing tasks and ongoing craft projects. I'm going to cover this up, not that it particularly matters anymore, but it's both mine and my husband's work schedules, so I know what's going on and where we are. And then something I really enjoyed doing last month was having this habit tracker in the form of a Tetris board. I saw this from, I can't remember who it was on TikTok, but I'm absolutely stealing it, and I really enjoyed filling it in, and it was really satisfying to get to the top of the board in the month. And I'm really glad to be doing that again this month. Then I have a spending tracker, which again, I'm not going to share with the internet. Highlight and gratitude page, relatively self-explanatory. And then we have my reading log, where I track whether I post on Instagram, post on TikTok, posted a blog or a YouTube video. I have my monthly TBR where I can, highlight the books I've read, the books I finished with these little monthly stickers so I can circle what days I finished a book, and then a tracker of how many pages and minutes I've read each day. Then we get on to the weekly spreads, which look pretty much the same every week. I found this format works really well for me. I have a section for where Lucas is working, and then a square for every day of the week, and then a more general notes section at the top, and then a sticker with what week of the year it is. And then at the end of the month, I do a little photo wrap up, which is just a really nice way to share to have some of the photos I've taken throughout the month as memories. There's nothing more to it. It's not functional. It's just fun. And sometimes that's what you need. So those are my photos from January. And then February looks pretty much exactly the same. Recipe, hobby/craft day and date we haven't planned yet. Well, we've planned the date, we've not planned the other stuff. February goals, February calendar, to-do lists and crafts mostly carried over from January, work calendars and habit Tetris, highlight and gratitude, reading, broken down in exactly the same way, and then weekly pages, and I'll show you the blank ones because they're really satisfying. And those are the blank weekly trackers. So yeah, I think what I'll do next month is I'll show you me making the end of February and the beginning of March trackers rather than flicking through like this, because this would get really boring every month. But yeah, if you have any ideas or any requests on what you'd like to see, let me know, and I will do my best to comply. Onto the book haul. I think I did quite well this month, considering I read 5 books and 87% of a 6th one. I basically read 6 books, and I also acquired 6 books. The number that added to my TBR was only 1 book, but technically 2. I'll explain. The first books I bought at the same time, because in January, The Works, a really cheap bookstore in the a really cheap bookstore in the UK, were doing this thing they called spreadery, which is a horrible word. They were releasing a bunch of sprayed edge editions of books, and the two I bought were ones that they've done sprayed edges for later books in the series, and because of this special month event they were doing, they back released sprayed edge editions of the first book in the series, the first of which is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which has these beautiful ombre sprayed edges, and I have a picture of the whole set of Icebreaker, Wildfire and Daydream with all the same matching sprayed edges, so obviously I had to pick up Icebreaker to match with that, and I've already read it, so it doesn't add to my physical TBR. So that was the first book I bought, and at the same time I also picked up this edition of Powerless because the Works do these gorgeous sprayed edge editions, and again I have a picture with Reckless and Powerful, the novella, in the same style. So again, for £5.50 I had to pick this up. I've already read it, so it doesn't add to my TBR. 2 new books, finishing off collections that I really wanted, and not too expensive, so a win for that part of the haul. Then we get into a book that I technically didn't buy. My mother came to visit and she bought me a book because she's very nice. And this book also doesn't add to my TBR, but that's because I have another edition that I haven't read. Staying in the realm of Lauren Roberts, it's the Waterstones hardback edition of Powerful. This is another series where I've got multiple editions. I now have 2 full editions of this series. It's got purple sprayed edges. This is hard to do with one hand. I can't show this very well. Oh, yeah, I can. A reverse dust jacket cover, which we don't get a lot of in the UK, so this is very exciting. And then also this hardback. I mean, look at it. Just look at it. That's the cover, and then the back is just as beautiful. It's just stunning. I'm obsessed and I have no regrets. So do I now have 2 full collections of this series where I've only read the first book? Yes. Do I have any regrets? No. So this is another new book that adds to the collection but technically doesn't add to my TBR because it's already on my TBR, and I'm not going to put it on twice because once I've read it once, that's both books ticked off. So doesn't add to my TBR, does finish a collection. I'm very, very happy with that one. Then we get to the release of Onyx Storm. So technically, me and my husband bought 2 editions of this book this month because we both love the series and we've found the easiest way for us both to read it at the same time, where he prefers reading physical editions and I prefer reading on my Kindle, is to order an ebook edition and a physical edition. So technically, I bought 2 books because I bought the Kindle edition and then my husband bought the physical edition. So it's +2 on the books I bought this month, but only +1 to the physical TBR, because obviously I'm not going to add the same book to the TBR twice, exactly as I just explained with Powerful. I read 87% of it in January and finished it in the first day of February, so it's now no longer on my physical TBR, so that's negated itself immediately. And then the last book I bought, the 6th book I bought in January, is one that doesn't add to my physical TBR because I bought it on my Kindle. So even though I need to read it, my physical TBR, and I've not even added up my Kindle TBR because that, to me, doesn't exist because it's not physical. So I don't count it towards my physical TBR. The number I have of my TBR is just my physical books. So the last book I bought was Spiral by Bal Cabra, which is the second book in it's an ice hockey series I don't know the name of. I wanted to read this book exclusively because the FMC is a ballet dancer and I'm training to be a dance teacher. I love dancing. I love stories about dancing and stories about characters who dance. And that was all I needed to know. And I have started reading it. I'm like 15% through. And I think I've gathered everything I need to know about Collide, which is the first book in the series. And I don't think I need to read it. Yeah, currently reading. Doesn't add to my TBR, but it is the 6th book I bought in January. And that's the whole haul. I think 6 books in a month, considering how much I love books, how much book content I make, and arguably how much I read. 6 books isn't bad. Arguably, I don't read fast enough to be buying books at the same rate I read them, especially considering my physical TBR. Let's get onto the TBR count because I've done so much mental gymnastics trying to figure out the right number for this. In total, I read 5 books in January, 2 of which I think 1, 2, 3. I read 5 books in January, 3 of which ticked off books on my physical TBR. I then bought 6 new books, which one of them added to my physical TBR and the other one added to my Kindle TBR, but we're not talking about that. So all round, my TBR total is -2. So at the end of January, my TBR was at 439. No, 437. Because at the beginning of the year, I calculated it to be 400. Oh, hang on. The door always goes while you're in the middle of filming. I was talking about my physical TBR. So when I counted it at the beginning of the year, it was 440. Then I was, filling in my spreadsheet throughout the month, and I realised I'd put in an extra book into the Maximum Ride series that doesn't exist. So that took the total from the beginning of the year down to 439. Then I did the maths on, reading 3, adding 1, -2 total. So we reached 437. That's where we are at the beginning of Feb, not including the fact that I have now read Onyx Storm and take it down to 436. But either way, it's a negative trajectory, which is a good thing. Negative sounds bad, but it's actually good because it's going down. All I'm hoping for with my TBR for this year is that it is less at the end of the year than it is, or than it was at the beginning of the year. So honestly, even if I just break even, I've now, -2 in January, currently -1 in Feb, but I'm also going to Hay on Wye, the book town in Wales this month. So I cannot make any promises about the damage that will be done there. So that's my TBR update. I feel like forcing myself to not forcing, but including things like my TBR update in monthly resets like this kind of holds me accountable, because having to admit something out loud is kind of the worst thing when you're trying to say you're doing something and you have to admit that you're failing at it. So that's the incentive I need to actually do it. Library tour. Can I do it while sitting down? There's not really much to talk about, realistically. I changed everything. That sounds dramatic. I rearranged it so I separated my I separated my read books from my unread TBR. So all of the books on the 2 big shelves behind me are unread. The middle shelf, the little tiny middle shelf, I've kept that as a kind of display shelf. So I've got my Heartstopper books here, some display stuff. My Fourth Wing and Iron Flame are in here. And then there's, I think, Percy Jackson's down the bottom. And then over on this side, where you can just about see all the books I've read, there's a very unruly, slightly precarious stack at the top because I don't have enough room. But all of the books on this side of the IKEA Kallax units are unread. Then on this trolley, I have my 25 in 2025 list. So these are, again, my unread TBR, but these 25 books are separate. And then on this side of the library, again, I have my kind of display books. So I have my special edition set of the Hunger Games. I've got a bunch of Doctor Who related books all on one shelf with a nice little TARDIS money box that I found in a charity shop. Beautiful decor. Then we have all of the Alex Rider books because there's 14 of them. So that would take up a lot of space on this side. So having them have their own space makes sense. Then we've got 2 cubes for our Skullduggery Pleasant series because there are currently 16 books in the main series with the 17th on the way, and then there's spin-off novels and novellas and graphic novels and World Book Day books, and we have quite the collection, so they're all in there. And then at the bottom I've got my Bridgerton special edition Illumicrate set, my Kiss Quotient special edition Illumicrate set, and my Kiss Quotient paperbacks. Makes sense to keep them together. I pulled out from my unread TBR a bunch of books from my childhood that I don't intend to reread. So I've got my Narnia set, a couple of series that I loved as a kid, and I mean like children's books, not like YA books. But I want to keep them for sentimentality's sake, and I'm not a minimalist in any way, shape or form, so I'm allowing myself to keep them for sentimentality's sake. And then right at the bottom, I have my Cassandra Clare, Shadowhunters, and then Harry Potter is tucked away. And yeah, that's about it. I also have a trolley over here, which you can't see. I have my current monthly TBR, and then it just keeps them all in one place, and it makes it easier for wrap-ups and stuff. Everything's just in one place, and then when I start planning my TBR for the next month, I can start to collate those books. Just easier, nice to have them there. And then what I will put on the other shelves of that trolley are the read books from my 25 and 2025. So I've already read one of the books from my list, Maximum Ride, The Angel Experiment. So I should really put them down here. That would make more sense, actually. Change of plan, I'm putting it down here. And then this is a rubbish talk, so I'm not actually showing you anything, I'm just talking about it. But I do have another bookshelf on this side of the room, which it was one of those that was downstairs and then we rearranged some stuff and then it was free to come upstairs. So obviously I made the most of it. In the long run, I would like to replace these Kallax units with more Billy bookcases, but I can't buy them secondhand because they won't fit in my car, and I can't buy them firsthand, new from IKEA, because they're expensive. So if anyone has any solutions / wants to donate some Billy bookcases and bring them around to my house, that would be great. However, for now, we're stuck with the Kallax units, which don't actually hold that many books. But we have a smaller bookcase over on this side, which has 4 shelves. The top shelf is where I've put all my Christmas books because, again, I've read some of them, I haven't read some of them, but it just doesn't make sense to me to integrate them with my general TBR. It's the closest I'll get to separating my books by genre. Next 2 shelves on this bookcase are where all of my husband's books are. He has a lot of video game books and just stories I'm not interested in and I'm never going to read, so it doesn't feel fair to me to put them on my unread shelves when I know I'm never going to read them. So he's got his own space now. Maybe one day when we have our forever house with millions of rooms and we've won the lottery and he has his own space, he can have his own bookshelf in there. But for now, it makes sense to have all of the books in here. Bearing in mind, this room is like very small. This is a tiny room. It's advertised as a bedroom when we first moved into the place, but I'm pretty sure it was a nursery, if that. You could fit a cot in here, you could fit a single bed, but very little else. This is a small room, so I've squeezed a lot of books in here. Bearing in mind, my collection is like 800 books strong, I think. Anyway, 2 shelves for Lucas, and then right at the bottom, I have a shelf where I'm currently putting all of the new books I buy throughout the year, because I did this last year. I kept all of the new books I bought separate, and then at the end of the year, I did film a video of every book I bought this year, but I got so overwhelmed by the end of 2024 that I just never got around to editing it. But it made it easier to film that video. And obviously, well, every year I intend to buy less books because I buy at a rate I can't read. But this year in particular, with the focus I'm putting on my physical TBR, I'm hoping not to need to exceed that shelf. That's how I've organised all the books in here. And I think that's it for this video. We've done the journals, we've done the book haul, we've done the TBR count update, and we've done the library tour. This has been so much fun to make. I've really enjoyed this. I love doing reset stuff. It's very much in my organisational nature. So if there's anything else you'd like to see me include in these videos, please do let me know. I could include things like setting up my content plan for the next month, but I don't think that would be very interesting to watch. If you've got any other ideas, let me know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're reading a great book, and I'll see you next time for another bookish video. Bye!